Hi guys, welcome to our daily encounter. Today we get to read about Israel in its height. You have Israel basically at the peak of their history. You have Solomon, the son of David, there as king. You have the temple that was constructed, that was beautiful, that was immaculate. You have the Ark of the Covenant now resting within the temple. David had already secured a lot of the land that God had promised to Israel, and that would be expanded also through the reign of Solomon. And you basically have almost everything that God had promised to Abraham being fulfilled. They've inherited the land, and even inherited the land to the utmost. God had given Abraham descendants as numerous as the sands of the sea. Certainly they had grown to be a very numerous people. And he had blessed those who had blessed them and cursed those who cursed them. He had definitely shown that these are his people. And especially through David, he gave Israel victory over their enemies and prosperity through Solomon. And so, in a lot of ways, God had fulfilled the covenant that he had made with Abraham. But there's just one aspect of that covenant that had yet to be realized. And that is, through your seed, all the nations of the earth would be blessed. You see, with all that Israel had going for her, with the temple, with the land, with the people, with the priesthood, all the wonderful, beautiful things that they had working for them, they still had failed in this regard. And that is to be a light to the Gentiles, to go out and share the blessings of God to the nations around them, to be a light, to be a megaphone for God to the rest of the world, so that the rest of the world could also learn about Yahweh and learn about his goodness and his love and his mercy. As a matter of fact, even in our reading today, we have somewhat of a failed attempt for the other nations to be blessed through Israel. In this little, it almost seems like a side story, where Solomon gives Hiram the 20 cities of Galilee there. Hiram had played an integral part in the building of the temple. Solomon wants to show appreciation and gives him these 20 cities, but Hiram goes out from Tyre to look at him, and he basically calls him good for nothing. He's like, these are the cities you gave me, really? And so even in that regard, where you have Solomon literally trying to bless someone from another nation, it seems like a failed attempt. And that seems to be a object lesson to what Israel would ultimately do, and that is fail in being a light to the Gentiles and being a blessing to all nations. As a matter of fact, the opposite occurs. Israel, as you continue in the history, will, instead of being a blessing to the nations, will actually allow the rest of the nations to influence her into idolatry and sin and rebellion against God. And ultimately, this great temple that we're reading about that was constructed will be destroyed and brought down to rubble. And they'll be taken into exile out of the land and will remain in that state for quite some time. And it won't be until one single Israelite gives up his life that all the nations would then learn about the goodness, the love, and the mercy of God, and that Israelite being Jesus Christ himself. He would come as a Jew to be the perfect Jew, the one who would fulfill everything that Israel had failed to do. He would establish a temple. He would establish a people for God, and he would be the means by which the goodness of God, the mercy and love of God would spread to all nations. And so it wouldn't be until Jesus Christ, who also was the son of David, comes on the scene that the true fulfillment of the Abrahamic covenant is fulfilled. And so fortunately, we live in a time where we can see that realized, and we can take that to heart and realize that God has fulfilled his covenant promises to Abraham through Jesus Christ. Where Israel was unfaithful, Christ was faithful. He was the faithful Israel, through whom all the blessings could flow. And we are benefiters of that. We benefit from the goodness that, or the work that Christ did on the cross. But it was a process, and God got them through it and has gotten us through it. So let's be thankful to God for the fact that he has been faithful, even when men are unfaithful, when his people have failed, God still remained faithful. And he proved his faithfulness, his righteousness, through sending his own beloved Son as a Jew to die on the cross for our sins, so that all of us could be blessed, all of us could learn about the love, goodness, and mercy of God. So that, guys, I do thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.